Dawn broke over Susa, casting golden light on the city's ancient stones. In an empire ruled by power and pride, where voices were silenced and decrees carved destinies, one young woman hidden behind palace walls was chosen not by the crown, but by heaven. Her name would not begin with greatness. She was not born into royalty, she was simply Esther. And the humble home of Esther, a young Jewish woman known for her quiet strength. Raised by her cousin Mordecai after losing her parents, Esther grew up in a house filled with faith and love, learning the traditions of her people in a foreign land. Mordecai, her protector and mentor, saw a special purpose in Esther, teaching her that even the smallest life can play a part in God's greater plan. Mordecai in Hebrew softly, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. Esther looks up, eyes wide with curiosity. Esther softly, why did God make me? Mordecai smiles gently, his voice tender and certain. Mordecai, because every generation has its moment, and perhaps yours is coming. Their days were simple, marked by prayer and devotion, far from the grandeur of the Persian court. Esther never dreamed of palaces or crowns. Her world was one of small joys and steadfast faith, but fate was stirring. Soon, a royal decree would sweep her into a destiny beyond anything she could imagine. In the stillness of that morning, neither Esther nor Mordecai could foresee how their faith would be tested, or how courage would be called forth from the quietest heart. Far beyond the quiet home where Esther was taught to pray, the city of Susa stirred with noise and urgency. King Xerxes, having banished Queen Vashti, a royal decree had been sent forth, a summons from the most powerful throne on earth then. King Xerxes, ruler of 127 provinces, was searching for a new queen. Trumpets echoed through the streets. Scrolls were nailed to gates and marketplaces. Soldiers read the king's command aloud as crowds gathered in silence. Sought a new queen from the empire's most beautiful young women. Let the most beautiful maidens of the empire be brought to the palace. From among them, the king shall choose a queen. Women gasped. Families whispered. Mothers held their daughters close. And somewhere, in a quiet corner of the city, Mordecai's heart grew heavy. His heart filled with dread. He knew the eyes of the empire would soon fall on Esther. Knowing Esther's beauty would draw the king's attention and take her from their home. When the king's officials arrived, Esther was chosen, and Mordecai gave her a final urgent instruction: hide your Jewish identity. With a heavy heart, he blessed her and entrusted her to God's care. Esther said nothing. She did not resist, but her eyes searched Mordecai's face one last time, as if trying to memorize every line of the man who raised her, who believed in her, who now had to let her go. The soldiers didn't drag her, they didn't need to. She walked quietly, obediently, her steps slow, her heart racing. As the palace gates loomed ahead, the sound of the city faded. The world she knew, the scent of home, the crackle of Mordecai's fire, the rustle of Torah parchment in morning light, all began to blur behind her. She crossed the threshold, and the gates closed. Esther entered the palace, leaving behind her simple life, armed only with faith and the lessons Mordecai had taught her. The world she entered was one of power and intrigue, but she clung to her heritage and hope. As Esther walked through the palace gates, she stepped into the unknown, trusting that God would guide her every step. The fate of her people and her own now rested on what would unfold within those royal walls. The story of Esther was about to begin in earnest. Inside the grand court of Persia, everything was gold and silence. Columns towered like giants. Curtains of imported silk floated in still air. The floors beneath her feet shimmered, polished marble reflecting her uncertain steps. Servants moved like shadows. No one spoke to her, no one asked her name. Perfumes of cinnamon, frankincense and myrrh clung to the air, overwhelming and unfamiliar, a world built to dazzle and to distract. Esther did not belong, and yet she did not retreat. She stood still, eyes wide but calm. She didn't speak, she didn't tremble, but inside she prayed. Esther stood apart, humble, kind and quietly faithful, while others competed for favor. Then a man stepped forward. The eunuch, Haggai. He observed her quietly, while others flaunted their beauty or begged for attention. Esther remained silent, and that silence spoke volumes. Favor was upon her. Haggai gave her the finest quarters, a private chamber lined with golden lampstands and soft linen bedding. He assigned her the best oils, the rarest fragrances, and the gentlest servants. But Esther asked for little. She touched none of the jewels laid before her. She tried none of the rich robes. She remembered Mordecai's final words, "Do not reveal who you are." So she did not. She smiled, bowed respectfully, and tucked her truth deep inside. Not out of shame, but obedience, out of wisdom. And so she waited. The palace dazzled with wealth and ambition. While the palace rushed with ambitions and perfumes, Esther waited in silence. With dignity, with faith, and with the quiet strength that would one day change the world. She treated everyone with compassion, her inner beauty shining brighter than jewels. Mordecai, anxious for her safety, lingered near the palace, praying for her daily. Esther kept her identity secret, but never forgot who she was or the God she served. Her humility became her strength and her faith her anchor. In a world obsessed with appearances, Esther's character set her apart, preparing her for a purpose greater than she could imagine. The stage was set for a moment that would change the fate of a nation. After months of preparation, when her moment came, Esther's heart remained quiet. No one knew her secret. No one knew God's hand was moving. Esther's turn came to meet King Xerxes. Esther stepped before the king with grace, not grandeur. She wore no extra jewels, spoke no flattering words. She simply stood as she was. She asked for nothing but what Haggai advised, relying on her true self rather than outward adornment. The king was captivated by her grace and sincerity, and the king's heart turned toward her. That night, the crown of Persia was placed on the head of a Jewish orphan. The kingdom celebrated. Grand banquets were held, gifts were given. Yet danger lurked. Days turned to weeks, and at the palace gate Mordecai remained watchful. One day he overheard a plot, two guards whispering in the shadows, planning the king's assassination. Mordecai sent word to Esther. Esther told the king. The plot was stopped. The guards were taken, saving Xerxes' life. The event was recorded in the royal chronicles, and Mordecai's name was written in the royal book. But no reward came. No thanks, just silence. Still, heaven had taken note, a detail soon to prove crucial. Unseen by all, a silent power moved in the corridors of heaven. While Esther sat on the throne, God's purpose was quietly weaving threads of protection and timing. Mordecai's rescue of the king, Esther's favor in both the courts of Persia and the courts of heaven, it was all part of a larger story. Esther's rise to queen brought hope, but also placed her at the heart of palace intrigue. The seeds of destiny and danger were sown, waiting to bear fruit. The true test of Esther's courage was yet to come. Then came a man named Haman, proud, calculated, cruel. He rose quickly, elevated above all nobles, second only to the king himself. And when Haman walked, men bowed, except Mordecai, who refused to bow, honoring only God. I bow only to the God of Israel. That one act of faith would awaken an ancient hatred. Haman burned with fury, and when he learned Mordecai was a Jew, his rage took root. Haman's wounded pride turned to hatred. Not only would he punish Mordecai, he would destroy them all. Every Jew, every family, across the entire empire, demanded honor from all. He whispered to the king, twisted truths, offered silver. He convinced Xerxes to authorize their destruction, offering a fortune to fund the massacre. The king, trusting Haman, the king removed his ring, gave him his signet ring, sealed the decree, sealing the fate of an entire people. A shadow fell over Persia as Haman's plot threatened to annihilate the Jews. Mordecai's quiet defiance set in motion a crisis that would test the courage of all. The stage was set for a confrontation between pride and faith. The fate of a nation now hung in the balance. It was done. Death was coming. And no one, not even the queen, knew yet. Until Mordecai tore his robes, poured ashes on his head and cried aloud in the city. Before we witness Esther's choice, pause with us in this moment of tension where fear and hope collide. The story of Esther is more than ancient history. It's a living call to courage, to faith, and to standing up for what is right, even when the cost is great. If this story moves you, if you find echoes of your own struggles and victories in Esther's journey, let your voice be heard. Like this video to show your support for stories that inspire. Subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss a tale of hope and heroism. Share this video with friends or family who need a reminder that one act of courage can change everything. We invite you. Comment below. How has courage shaped your life? When have you had to stand up for what you believe in, even when it was hard? Your story matters, and together we build a community where faith and bravery are celebrated. Follow us for more stories that uplift and challenge. Reflect on Esther's courage, and consider, how might your faith, your choices, your voice make a difference in the world around you? Thank you for being part of this journey. Now let's return to Susa, where destiny is waiting for a queen's answer. Haman's decree spread terror on a set day. All Jews were to be killed, their property seized. Mordecai mourned publicly, clothed in sackcloth and ashes, his grief echoing through Susa. Esther, learning of his distress, sent for the reason. She learned the truth, and her breath caught in her chest as she received the horrifying news. Mordecai urged her to plead with the king for her people's lives. The weight of the decree pressed upon Esther, forcing her to confront her own fear and responsibility. The fate of her people rested on Esther's willingness to risk everything. The moment of decision had come. Would she remain silent or rise to her calling? On the night before her decision, Esther didn't sleep. She sat alone, crown beside her, staring at her reflection. She wasn't thinking of titles. She was thinking of her people, her cousin, her own life. Was she ready to lose it all? Esther hesitated. Approaching the king uninvited meant death unless he showed mercy. Mordecai's message was clear. Silence would not save her, and perhaps she was queen for this very moment. She had not been summoned to the king in 30 days. To go without invitation was to die. But Mordecai's message echoed, "Do not think you can remain silent. Who knows whether you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this?" Esther wept, then fasted, then stood. "If I perish, I perish." The words struck Esther's heart, transforming fear into resolve. She called for a 3-day fast, uniting her people in prayer. "I will go to the king," she declared, "and if I perish, I perish." Esther embraced her destiny, choosing courage over comfort. The fate of a nation now rested on her faith and bravery. The hour of reckoning had arrived. On the 3rd day, Esther approached the king, risking her life. In silence, she stepped into the hall of the king. In the throne room, the silence that greeted Esther wasn't just royal etiquette. It was a moment held in suspense by history itself. Every breath, every step, every heartbeat felt the weight of destiny. Breath held, crown trembling. He turned, the scepter lowered. She was spared. Xerxes welcomed her, granting her audience and offering anything she desired. But Esther did not rush. She waited. She watched. She invited the king and Haman to a banquet, then another banquet, waiting for the right moment to reveal her true request. Meanwhile, the king, reminded of Mordecai's loyalty, honored him, further enraging Haman. And on the 2nd night, she stood again. Esther prepared to expose the truth. The tension reached its peak. Esther's wisdom and patience set the stage for justice. The trap was ready, and the fate of Haman and the Jews would soon be decided. The moment of truth was at hand. At the 2nd banquet, Esther began, "There is a man among us who seeks to destroy me and my people, for I am a Jew." The room froze. Haman's face drained of color. Esther revealed Haman's plot to destroy her people. The king, enraged, left in silence. When he returned, Haman was pleading at Esther's feet, and the king condemned him, ordered Haman executed on the very gallows he had built for Mordecai. Yet the decree of death still stood. A law written by the king could not be undone. So Esther went once more and pleaded for her people. The king gave Mordecai and Esther the authority to write a new law. Let the Jews defend themselves, and so they did. On the appointed day, the day of destruction became a day of deliverance. The people celebrated, feasted, gave gifts. And they called the day Purim, because the enemy cast lots for their doom. But God cast his favor for their victory. The Jews triumphed over their enemies, turning sorrow into celebration. The festival of Purim was established, a lasting reminder of deliverance and courage. Mordecai rose to power, working for the good of his people. Esther's bravery became a legacy, inspiring generations to stand for justice. God's faithfulness and one woman's courage changed history. Esther's inner voice. When I am gone, I pray they remember not my crown, but my choice. That I did not stand in strength, but in surrender. That courage is not found in palaces, but in purpose. The story of Esther asks us all, for what purpose have you been placed where you are for such a time as this? Mordecai was raised up in the kingdom. Esther remained queen, but neither forgot where they came from or who they belonged to. And the question still echoes through history. What if you were placed here for such a time as this? As Esther's legacy echoes through the centuries, her courage reminds us that every story, yes, even yours, matters. In a world longing for hope, your voice, your choices and your faith can light the way for others. If this story moved you, let your voice be heard. Like this video to show your support for stories that inspire courage and faith. Subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss a story that could inspire your next step. Share this video with someone who needs a reminder of the power of purpose and bravery. Together, we can reach more hearts with messages of hope. Comment below. What part of Esther's journey spoke to you most? Your reflections might be just what someone else needs to hear. Join our community for more stories that inspire courage and faith. Together, we build a place where every story is honored and every voice is heard. Follow our channel for more tales of inspiration, resilience and hope from history and beyond. Together, let's stand with courage because for such a time as this, your story matters too. Thank you for being part of this journey. We can't wait to see how your story unfolds. See you in the next video.